All right.
10 hours in order to get
Lewis and I make a meeting.
8 hours.
When Pete's still talking about the job tonight.
You go to eBay.
Okay.
do a campground,
Oh,
and
just
you
text them and say, just watch it later for the information on the
Okay.
all
ground.
the way, and then you hike to that meadow, and then you
Would you like to postpone? We could.
all the way up to the top. Where
It's easy enough.
you can see the snow when you're looking at like.
Hear about it.
You just want to make that amendment in the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. See, I do have some feedback.
Okay. Should we go?
We've got some feedback. So keep it on.
Katie would like to keep it on.
Oh, keep it on? Okay.
Yeah.
All
Make
right.
it brief, but I
Okay.
got some feedback for how to make more money.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Like to call to order the Town of Fraser's board meeting on Wednesday, May 21st at 6:01 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Katie Fisher,
Adam quickly.
Julie White.
Katie Souls.
And Brian Cirkvenick. Could I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from May 7th, 2025, and the treasurer's report?
so moved. I made a correction on Jill Suffin's spelling of her last name, and that's been done. So that's the simple one.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will move on to open forum. This is for business not on the agenda. We don't have anyone in the room. Is anybody online? Quiet one. Okay, we'll keep moving. All right. Discussion and possible, oh,
Apologize, we do have a raised hand real quick.
okay. You will have 3 minutes to address the board.
Who's on?
My name's Karen Kennedy and I'm just here for the enhancement grants discussion. So I don't know that I raised my hand at the right time.
Agenda item.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, we can call on you when we get to that part, which is next.
Okay, sorry.
That's
No.
okay. So we know that you're working and then you're there.
Okay, discussion and possible action regarding resolution 2025-0508, business enhancement grants.
So
Sarah.
close.
Good evening, Mayor Cirkvenick, Board of Trustees, Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager. We have received an additional business enhancement grant. It is from the Fraser, sure I get this right. Fraser Valley Center. They are requesting money to enclose their dumpsters that are on the back of the building and visible from, I believe it's Jones Drive. So they have proposed 2 enclosed dumpster areas, one that would be in front and one that would be in the back. And then there would be one additional dumpster that they do not in their current plans have enclosed. Apparently dispensaries require their own dumpster by state law. The planning department, the Town of Fraser Planning Department has requested that they would also enclose that dumpster. Currently, their application is for $16,278. If this amount is awarded, the total award amount thus far for 2025 business enhancement grant applications would be $107,802. Once again, the amount budgeted was $125,000, and we had about $25,000 that was left over from the previous year's budget line item for business enhancement grants.
So we're still in line with our budget.
Yes, yeah. So there is still some funding remaining.
Okay.
If the grant is approved, staff does recommend that it be on the condition that a site plan is submitted and approved by the Town of Fraser Planning Department, and ensuring that the front dumpsters do not block access to any required parking spaces that would be needed to meet the minimum parking requirements.
Okay.
And we do have Karen online. If you have any questions for her, if she'd like to see anything about their grant application.
So Karen, the existing dumpsters, so you have two that are kind of on the north end of the building, kind of
Can you pull that up, please?
Yeah. I'm gonna do that
kind of
one.
just behind the vet clinic. Assuming those will be moved a little further kind of south to the back corner of Murdoch's, is that right?
Yeah, so there's two back there right now that are kind of behind the vet, and they'll be moved back to that, to the corner, kind of along the property line, um, behind the Murdochs more. And then the other ones that are on the, I guess the more south side,
Jock's Drive there.
those ones would be moved out to the front lot. And then any that are extra, we would no longer have, other than the marijuana one that has to stay.
So
Okay.
yeah, you can see the front one here next to their outdoor storage area. And then
Slide that up.
the one back here. And then this is the lone remaining dumpster.
So
Do you
if I
scroll down
remember,
just a little bit so we can see what's behind the black box.
if I
Sorry,
remember
what did you want me to do with it?
just
I want to see that lower section where the V is, where the back entrance is to the registry. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for getting rid of that.
so there's currently like 4 dumpsters back on John's Drive, right?
I believe so.
So those folks will be using the front new enclosure. Is that just 2 dumpsters?
It will be one dumpster and one recycling, and we've talked to the waste company to be able to get pickups more frequently in order to minimize the number that we have.
Oh, okay. I think that's a great solution then.
So I see the location drawing. I don't see a schematic of what you envision these dumpster enclosures to be. Could you give a
Yeah.
brief verbal description, I guess?
Yep, absolutely. So we plan to do like wood post framing, and then it will have metal siding on it. So kind of like a corrugated metal. And then it will also have doors that will be a combination of wood and metal construction that self-close with keypad locks and metal roofing as well.
And it bear proof, I assume?
Yes.
And then the entrance to the Murdoch's yard there would just be towards Highway 40, is that right?
Yes. And we're open to moving this one's location if need be as well, to minimize any disturbance to parking that's required. That's on the front side.
So and it's probably part of your mandated open space, but on the back side of Murdoch's and where the building kind of tucks in and there's some cobble and trees, it seems like that space, if it were utilized for a dumpster location, that you could just tuck them in there. And there would be plenty of room for the trash truck companies to pull in, would be on the back side. But I know that, so I think that's out where your vacuum is for home, James, maybe your little steel one. And there's a table there, but have you guys considered using that space?
I can talk to the owner and landlord about that.
Yeah.
I do believe that I know the space that you're talking about. So I definitely think that could be a conversation that happens with him.
Yeah, and it's around that, just the right, yeah, it's in that little triangle that we can't see on this slide right now.
Yeah.
But it's to the right of that, the backside of Murdoch's, and tucking into that little leg. Anyway, it just seems like it is a nice break space. But a lot of it isn't being utilized. I think that you should take a look at that. It'd be nice to be able
absolutely.
to, keep everything in a little bit closer to the building versus
Right.
out where there's parking and storage. And I know that Home James utilizes a lot of the parking out there where the dumpsters are considered that shelters. So anyway, yeah, you might check with them, see what he thinks. That would fit in there.
Yeah.
And it would be closer for those businesses.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking the businesses that use the one that's gonna get moved, there's the pizza joint, there's the coffee shop. And they'll be dragging everything out their front doors
Right.
instead of their back doors where their kitchens are,
Like, we can make it.
you know,
Do
so.
we know what the open space requirement is for this building? Like, because yeah, I mean, if they hate to take out trees, but if they took out like 4 or 5 trees, you could put dumpsters.
Yeah,
right
and
along
like
the
say,
building.
in that corner, it's tucked away anyway. It's like nobody can really see it. And it gets opens up the street width. I spend a lot of time back there. I
Like
walk
I'm in
back
Denver,
there,
so I
on
usually
the
am
deck
not
of the
there that
coffee shop.
often.
So yeah, so please consider that as a location too, but you guys definitely need covered dumpsters, so
Yes.
it's a good thing.
Mhm.
And iron out the details.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk to them about that.
Yeah, see what they think.
And I told Karen that if the board did want to approve this application, but wanted to see that other dumpster enclosed as well, I think you could pass the resolution asking for that third dumpster enclosure, and we could amend the grant amount to cover half of that as well, up to that $25,000 max, so long as funds were still remaining.
But right now, there's only the request for these other two.
So right now, there's the dumpster enclosure in the back
Mhm.
corner here, and then there's the dumpster enclosure in the front. This dumpster in the back here would remain without an enclosure. And this is the one that goes to the dispensary.
I do think the owner would be open to it, but I just would have to confirm with him. And unfortunately, I didn't see that until just before.
Yeah, no, of
the
course. I sent this to Karen at the end of today after talking more with Garrett. If it was a new build, it would be required to be enclosed.
Yeah.
Some of these older buildings were grandfathered in and those dumpster enclosures were not required.
I'd be okay with the grant and contingent on staff approval of location and design and that kind of stuff.
Well, it's gotta go
Yep.
back to planning, right?
Anyway, yeah, so,
Right, because I would just as soon not have it out in the parking lot.
yeah, I mean, if it can be out back.
If it
or
can be out back, that would be preferred.
Agreed.
even if it
tucked
was
into
good,
that
it's still
space.
dumpster.
And if it takes a little variance from the town
Yeah, yeah.
to allow that, we'll
In the middle of
pursue that
closing down
I'm sure
at
it's-
night.
Yeah,
I
going out
really
your
think
front
it
door with
fit in there.
trash is a little
Or to
tacky.
the dining room,
quite nicely, be tucked away
and they're heavy.
and out of the wind
Good.
to some degree.
Yeah.
Glass bottles.
And the recommendation from staff is that you approve it on the condition of a site plan being submitted and approved. So they would work with Garrett and Alan on getting approval for those locations and whatnot and making sure the parking minimum requirements continue to be met.
And did you say it has to go to the planning commission also?
I
you
don't
mention
believe
that?
that has to go to the planning commission.
Okay,
I think it would just be an administrative approval.
It's already an allowed use.
okay. All right, well, for staff, I would prefer not to have it out front. I would like to see it tucked away in the back, if that can happen with the homeowner.
Yeah, they could go right where the aspens are.
So I don't have a copy, let's see there.
So there is a resolution then in front of you.
Can you move it back up to the top a little bit more?
Yep.
Thank you.
Do I have to recuse as a tenant of this building?
Okay.
No.
No,
it's-
you don't stand to
Contingent.
financially gain from this. Right,
Oh,
okay.
Okay, now you can roll
Selling
it
your
down, thank
code.
you. Okay, Sarah, read through that, and just seeing where that requirement.
So Sarah, your recommended amendment to the resolution is to include a closure for the third dumpster?
Correct. Yeah. And I think you could provide for staff to administratively approve an increase in the grant amount to cover that.
Okay. To bring that up to the 25,000. Gotcha.
Not to exceed.
Okay, yep, you can add that.
And
Up to
that-
a maximum of 25,000, correct?
Do you know the difference between what's left and what's budgeted? Because
Yeah.
everything's pretty close.
So we're at a little over 100,000
Yeah.
and there was 125,000 for this year, plus about 25,000 that can roll over from last
from
year.
last.
Yeah.
We're actually, I have a lot more.
It's being used.
Yeah. Finally.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-0508. Approving this additional business enhancement grant for dumpsters enclosures with the conditions that we just, the additions we just spoke of.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Okay. Congrats.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the drop service and financials. Michael and Lori.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Michael Brack, Fraser Town Manager. I was requested by one of our trustees to talk about the financials and the services provided at the drop. If you're not aware of where the drop is, it's located on County Road 72. Go under the underpass for the railroad and then hang a left, and it's right there on your right. The drop's been around since, I believe, 2018 is when it was finished. I think it broke ground in 2017. And that followed a study that was actually done by the county looking at ways to improve waste diversion opportunities with the closing of the landfill in Granby. And this kind of came about as an opportunity to help serve local residents, second homeowners, and visitors who are coming to the whole county, really, or even upwards of areas. Steamboat Springs, if they're commuting back to the Front Range, they could come through and use this facility. And the idea before this facility was in place, the picture that really provided the best story was a large dumpster area in Rendezvous that was actually overwhelmed with trash from a lot of second homeowners and guests trying to get rid of their trash. And there's also been a lot of history of a lot of the dumpsters for local businesses and even residents being poached on a regular basis, which I think still happens to some degree, but there's at least an outlet for people that can look at disposing their trash and their recycling, I think for a reasonable cost here at the drop. So once the town kind of aligned with this opportunity, we had a lot of engagements with the public. We have some open houses and discussed location, which was a fun topic at the beginning of it all. And the location where it's at currently was the second location that it turned out to be. Were you at that one, Katie?
No, I
Yeah,
have
the
the first
first one
one.
was
It's
McCormick.
right by my house.
It was exciting. But
Motor does not have.
Yeah.
so the location, I think, in my opinion, works very well. It's not located adjacent to any residential zones. You got a cemetery on one side, a railroad on another side, and a road on Tubing Hills. So accessible, it's very accessible. It's close to town, it's close to Highway 40. And the services currently provided at the drop, we have free single stream recycling, which all the recycling just goes together in the same dumpsters. That then gets transported to the Granby transfer station. If you've ever been to the Granby transfer station, they have a large warehouse kind of area that's kind of open bays where you have the left side for trash and then the right side for recycling. And they have semi trucks that come in, load up the recycling and haul it down to a materials sorting facility down on the Front Range. And they sort those from there and look for recycling end users here, typically in the state or just hopefully close within the state. It's the way that Colorado's really approached that. So the other side of that is the page you throw a trash program that's available at the drop. That is a program where we have 40-gallon yellow trash bags that have stamped a map and the location of the drop. Actually with the old Fraser logo. I don't know if I'm really good with that,
Next
but
row.
that's available for purchase at Murdoch, Safeway, Fraser Ace Hardware, here at Town Hall, and also there at the drop. Those bags are for sale for $8.50. That price has not changed since we opened the drop. Could be something worth consideration as we get into the finances of this. But basically provides a incentive for households and users of the drop to dispose of less since they're paying per bag. So the less that you dispose of or generate in waste, the less bags you need to utilize and pay for to dispose of that waste. And also with the recycling component at the same facility, it does encourage you to go ahead and recycle so that you're spending less money on garbage. So that is the current program right now for how that works. And any questions about services at the drop before I dive into the financials? We also do host the spring and fall cleanups there at the drop. The next one's coming up on, I believe, June 1st. Is that right, Sarah? June 1st?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of people are marking their calendars. So we host that at the drop as well. And just another program that complements the facility as far as trying to enhance the town and provide an opportunity for local residents only living within the town of Fraser boundaries to be able to dispose of discarded items and items that they don't want, that are otherwise hard to get rid of, or take to the transfer station. It's expensive. It can be very expensive for disposal.
What a refrigerator.
Can't do appliances. They have to go through a antifreeze
Gotcha.
removal process
Yeah.
that has to be done by the appliance store in Granby.
Yeah, there's
do.
places in Denver you can take it for free. You've got to haul it down there.
There you go.
Are the dump days included in the overall
What's
expenses?
that, Adam?
Yes.
I was asking if those specialty days, those dump days are included in the overall costs.
I believe they are. Maintenance, the biggest service costs for those dumpsters or roll-offs, they're actually at least 2 of those roll-offs are donated by I believe it's Trash Company. It's been a while since I've done this, but they donate those roll-offs with the program that they do. The same deal they do in Granby as well, and I think Winter Park. So they actually provide that to the town. We pay for some of the electronics disposal when you have that recycling there available, and then maybe some labor hours for. We usually have somebody up there with a mini X to help compact like larger furniture items that are taking up the last space. But I believe those costs are included here in the service costs. The service costs do include all the tipping fees for now Ranch Creek will be servicing the drop. So for every dumpster full of trash or dumpster full of recycling, they will dump those. And also any replacements of roll-offs that are needed. We have roll-offs that are on site really that function as overflow, especially on big holiday weekends where those 10 recycling dumpsters get filled fairly quickly. And we've had the event before where we closed it on Christmas Day and it ended up getting full, and you had a line of people waiting to dispose of their trash on a Saturday, and we were still open the following Sunday. So we've learned that just maintaining good capacity there and good overflow for trash and recycling has been a benefit to keeping that program running. Last thing you want is a bunch of people showing up being told they can't dispose of their trash and told to take it back to the front range with them, I guess. So other things included in those service costs that are shown here are also just any maintenance. We usually have gravel brought in once a year. There's always maintenance on the shed, the fences, different parts of the facility. There are lights in there. There is a small solar PV system that powers the lights and the little computer room there in the shed. And those are just recently serviced. And just signage, anything that you see there at the facility regarding maintenance is attended to and is charged to this service cost line item. Looking at the chart here as well, we do have the drop staffing costs as well. That is one part-time employee that has worked at that facility. And they typically work 24 hours a month or 24 hours a week. Paul, is that right? So part-time, there's no expense for benefits for that position because it is part-time, and it just works for some people. It works really well to have that part-time position and have some extra cash. So just kind of running through the table here, we do have the drop revenues at the very top. The drop revenues include the sales for the pay-as-you-throw trash bags, and donations. We actually get a good amount of donations, especially with a free recycling component, which is, I think, been well recognized by the public. And one additional
So
cost.
do you know what we got in donations last year?
I don't. I have to ask Lori to break that out. Lori's on vacation
That's okay.
this
That's
week,
fine.
so that's why
Cool.
she's not here today. But it's a good amount. I would say it's probably around 20% of those revenues, donations.
Hmm.
It's pretty substantial.
Huh.
One of the costs too is just for the cost of those bags. Usually every couple of years, we have to place an order for those pay-as-you-throw bags, and you can only order in a large bulk amount. So we actually have a storage unit there in Tabernash that's just for housing these bags.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we have to order, I think, 6 pallets of boxes for the bags.
Mhm.
That's the minimum.
You can have
order that we-
another logo, right?
So are we gonna put that in the public works facility?
Yeah.
Can we have a?
Right, good point.
No, Paul.
Good point.
It'll go into a shed when we expand the drop.
That's the heated.
There we
go.
Storage.
So for service costs, we do include in the service costs is the ordering new bags, which typically takes place again every couple years. Profit loss, I just kind of went 2022 to 2024. A big part of the reason you're seeing the drop in the drop in revenues in 2024 is on January 1st of last year, the state implemented that no grocery stores, retail could provide plastic, single-use plastic bags.
Right.
You may, obviously go shopping and you're given maybe a thicker plastic bag. But the thin ones that they used to remember from the grocery store are now prohibited from using. So now they're only allowed to use the paper bags. And something about the paper bag that we were discussing, I was discussing with staff a little before, was with the plastic bags, they were a little smaller than the paper bags. And when you had to pay per plastic bag at the grocery store, if maybe some of us have been in the scenario where we forgot our reusable bag, and so we had to buy a few bags. You can basically, I think it's like at least a 2-to-1 for
Yeah.
the plastic bags to the paper bags.
Mhm.
So now that those are no longer an option and the paper bags are the only option, I think they are larger. So
Yeah.
basically you'll be purchasing less bags. So I think that's why you're seeing the drop in revenue here. I think that will hopefully continue to increase as we have more traffic in the area and more sales tax.
Mhm.
People going to Safeway and local shops, but that's the biggest impact to the revenues that you're seeing there in 2024. And once we have that number audited, that number could fluctuate a little bit.
I imagine that's just part of it's us being trained. to use
Yeah,
our
I
bags.
feel the
That's
same
true.
thing.
Yeah.
I would imagine,
Yeah.
I'd like to see where that levels off, because I look at that as our tourist population.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we've talked about that too. It's like, oh, is that because everyone's using their single-use bags? And I think a part of it is yes. But for 2024 alone, with that taking place, I think there's a pretty noticeable difference there as well.
And I reuse my paper.
Yeah.
There you go,
So
there you
now
go.
Twice as big.
Oh,
I can do that.
And then you can recycle your paper bags,
That's
which is
really
great.
Yeah.
So the disposable bag fee, you see the revenues there, they're pretty substantial. You'll see the drop there,
Yep.
and those disposable bag fee revenues there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a loss now for 2024. And we're hoping that with the switch to Ranch Creek, this will more zero out. But still, if you look at the pace of the increased service costs for the drop compared to the revenues that seem to be decreasing, we can look at maybe marketing the Page and Throw Trash program a little bit more to try to provide some more revenues and draw some more attention to that Page and Throw program. But it's not exactly a service that's covering itself for sure.
Is that the
Um,
goal?
The
That would be
reason the
nice.
town did this in the first place, and I think Katie, you can probably attest to this, is that recycling alone, recycling opportunities came and went several times here in the Fraser Valley. And it ended up being, you needed the backing of a government budget that can handle some loss and is not just looking at it from a business point of view, because economically it doesn't seem to.
No, for-profit businesses couldn't make it work.
Yeah, and I've been
They're
saying the same
nonprofit.
thing to Granby, who's currently trying to revisit how they're gonna maintain their recycling program. I'm really trying to tell them that you gotta own it, you gotta go for it.
Yeah.
Because if they close down that operation, it's gonna put more stress on the drop. And the recycling component is the more expensive component. The tipping fees are quite a bit more than the trash tipping fees for the recycling,
Okay.
because they got to pick them up, keep them sorted, take them to a material sorting facility. It's just a little more logistics. So yeah,
But Ranch Creek does it there.
what's that?
Sorry.
Ranch Creek will be doing it on site, right?
Uh,
Recycling,
recycling.
sorting.
They still have to take it to a material sorting facility.
Yeah,
I think they talked about like maybe we could bundle like some cardboarded stuff, and the
Mhm.
way that they would haul it to the end place there in Denver.
hmm,
They can keep the cardboard
would
pretty
be
compact,
serious.
which
so
But
in the future, we're running 3-phase up to our new facility. It takes 3-phase to run a baler.
that's right.
And we could bale our own cardboard here.
Yep.
Because that's what we did in Granby when Grand Recycles was in business. And you can make money off of OCB, old corrugated cardboard. And it really saves, but it'll cut back on the container storage big time.
Yep.
So,
Is it
yeah,
three-phase or
get
something
moving the
like that?
3-phase out there. So eventually I see that as
Yep.
working for us.
So something that I noted earlier is that the right of way that where the road used to be, it used to just go straight up the hill there instead
Yeah.
of coming around the drop where it is now. We're working with the county for
Vacate that.
exchanging that right of way, giving that to us in addition to the right of way that we would maintain that goes to the new public works facility in exchange for that County Road 721, the Fraser Parkway. Discussing that'll eventually come to the board for
Yeah.
a final decision, but
Be nice if you could run the
we'll have that
3-phase
additional
up that
space.
right away, because it'd be more direct also.
Something to think about.
Yeah, something to consider.
There's
Get it.
no-
Yeah, I'll leave it to the engineers.
I'm excited.
I would
Let's
just say,
start baling our cardboard. Boy.
Since if we
Oh,
can't
well.
snow storage, you need a snow melter.
honestly,
yeah,
if we're
that's-
gonna-
So,
That's a valid point, Katie. We'll
But,
have
yeah.
the ability to.
yeah, and that would save us a ton of money. So I had a couple of thoughts with this. For one, Ranch Creek, we're gonna save about 31,000. Of course, that's per year, so cut that in half. So that's gonna help offset that. And the donation, I think, personally, when I go to leave, I don't want to get out of my car
Yeah.
and go over that friggin' donation box. So if we were to have designed some kind of a donation box on a steel post right there where people go to move out. So when they're driving out, they could pull up with their car window and they could put money in, and then there would be a Venmo sticker on that box. Because a lot of people do Venmo, and they could just make a donation. And I think that between those two things, I think that that'll keep us back so that we're in the black and not the red.
We used to have a QR code there. I'm not sure whatever happened to that. Yeah, I think we can just get a different account set up.
Yeah.
but
So
we'll,
anyway, that's my thought. I
Yeah.
think that if that was more convenient for people, Paul's shaking his head. You gotta figure
So,
something or, you know,
I would say if we were gonna do a donation box, it would probably be as you're making the left to head back out, so that we're not trying to cross traffic. The
Correct.
gate's probably not wide enough to have that there.
yeah,
But I think maybe we can look at something, especially if we're expanding it, we can move things around. On the baling of cardboard,
Mhm.
you would either need to look at purchasing a forklift to move those, or gravel,
that's
or
true. We
paving the
do-
facility to use a pallet jack to move things around, because you're not gonna move it around in the gravel.
That's true.
Those are just some things, if we expand it, it's
Okay.
doable, but the town doesn't own a forklift at the moment, so
well,
Such
we,
a
we
dream
could, we have the
crusher.
fork, we have the fork adapter for the loader, don't we?
we do, but
You get a
it gets
motor
tight in
under
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just for the board's reference, we last purchased 102 boxes of pay-as-you-throw bags in January of 24, so 17 months ago,
Mhm.
at a cost of $10,000.
Okay.
So, and that's I think it was a $2,500 increase over the last time we had purchased them. So
And how far are we through that
I
supply?
don't have that,
Okay.
but when we do reorder, we will have the new logo.
New logo, that sounds good.
Have we thought about like biodegradable bags?
They were a lot more expensive. as
I
recall.
imagine, but.
They were,
we're putting
and,
a Thousand trash bags.
Yeah.
I looked into
Charge an
that.
extra $1.
I looked
for the
into that
product.
quite a bit, and yeah, they're more expensive. They do tend to fall apart easier, especially based on where they're stored. If you have them stored somewhere that's the temperature
They
is not
start
ideal,
biodegrading before.
they
they-
Mhm.
so a lot of these people will buy, several rolls of bags and have that available for them for the season or whatnot.
Yeah,
So it also doesn't degrade at the rate that really works for trash disposal.
Oh, and it's all sealed. There's no oxygen. These new systems are covered
Yeah,
constantly.
the place where it may
I don't
make sense
think
for.
anything breaks down.
Where it really may make sense for that is for composting.
Mhm.
I think they would consider biodegradable bags for collecting your composting at the residential and
Yeah.
maybe at the businesses, but being able to transport that in a bag that will decompose and you don't just have to use I don't think you want to use a compostable bag over and over again. So you could just kind of drop it off and take it away.
I thought about it, but
I think it's a nice idea, but I don't think that they'll break down in landfills anyway.
yeah, okay. Just a question, now you brought up composting, I just filled out a climate change winter park survey. They're looking into composting services, or
We are. Sir, you want to give us the latest and greatest on that?
I figured we were probably.
We've partnered with.
Yeah, so Mia Doris is a sustainability coordinator in the town of Winter Park. And her and I just spoke again with the compost queen this afternoon, which is her official business name. So we contracted with her a while back to do a feasibility study. One of you need land. So one of the big pieces of the puzzle is just identifying an appropriate location. It would be nice if it was somewhere like the drop where people are already going to drop recycling and trash and could just drop compost as well. But I don't know that we have the space there and there's no electricity or water, which you need for the various methods of compost. I think as we've looked at various options, we're coming to the conclusion that it might not be something that makes sense for us as a municipality to take on, but perhaps could, if we had space to offer somebody, put out some sort of RFP process and look at a public-private partnership to offer composting services up here. So it's something we're exploring, but we have not yet landed on a great answer to what would work well up here.
So thanks for the input.
Hey.
Again, this is something that the board can always reconsider regarding costs of like the bags. Again, those were set in 2018 and those have stayed the same. The idea behind that was to hopefully, it was actually a little higher than what we think we needed to do, but the idea was like, we're really not wanting to change the cost too often. But it's something we could look at as far as the numbers of bags used per year. And if a reasonable cost increase could make sense to help cover the service costs.
Yeah, and then we'll see how it goes.
Mhm.
With improved donation box access, electronic donation options and the savings of Ranch Creek. We might be able to just leave it. Because it, so many people right now, and we've seen it in our income too from property tax.
Yeah.
People are feeling the squeeze and they're nervous with their money, and it seems like this is a good price point because people are still buying them and doing it. So I think that, especially if we're saving money on our waste disposal, I think that that's appropriate to be able to pass it on.
I think it was always intended to be a break-even proposition. And
Yeah.
if we're getting close to above and below that,
Yeah.
alternating years, I think we're being successful.
Me too. Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank
Okay, Downtown Development Authority Board Seat Resignation. Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor, Board, Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager. So the Fraser Downtown Development Authority does have another open board seat. As you may recall, back in January, we had a resignation for a board member who just didn't work schedule-wise. This is based on our chair, Lori Hannon, moving out of the district in June. So she is no longer eligible based on Colorado statute. So she has resigned, vacated her spot, which brings us down to 9 board members. The DDA board did appoint Parks Thompson, who had been the co-chair or the vice chair, as chair, and Tiffany Gatesman is going to step up as the vice chair until October, at which time we're due to reappoint officers.
Who did you say vice chair?
Tiffany
Parks.
Gatesman.
Oh, and she's the vice chair.
Yes.
She's
Yeah.
within environmental services.
Chemical biologist.
Yeah. she's good.
Cool.
Yeah, the initial officer appointments were for a shorter period, just based on the way the statute has it work and when we initially formed the DDA. So those officer chairs will be reappointed by the board in October. We also have 2 board members, Tiffany Gatesman and Bill Palmer. Their terms are up in October. So the recommendation of the DDA board would be that we wait until October to decide if we want to fill the 2 open seats or if we want to go down to a 9-member board, but we would have 2 seats open at that time anyways. Tiffany and Bill could both reapply for their seats and be appointed to continue serving, but we would be open at that time for additional applications. But it is based on Colorado statute, up to the Board of Trustees to make that determination if you would like to appoint somebody else at this time, if you'd like to leave it at a 9-member board, or if you would like to wait until October and evaluate it at that time when we're accepting applications for the terms that will be expiring.
Until October.
I think wait till October.
Leave it
Yeah.
till October. Mhm.
It's a bummer to lose Lori.
Yeah, she's good. Very enthusiastic.
Yeah, she has asked to continue serving on the committee for the business enhancement grant. So I think she'll stay involved, but won't be eligible to remain on the board.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I think we just
Do you
need
need
a
a-
motion then.
A motion.
Yeah.
You know, since I'm on the DDA board.
Make a motion to keep the vacant DDA board seat open until the next election or appointment.
Appointments.
Appointment.
In October.
Adam, is your mic on?
Yes, it's just, oh, it is. Okay,
All
great.
right, thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay,
Great. And I'll just add that I anticipate that we will accept applications for that probably in September. And then at the first board meeting in October, we'll plan to have the Board of Trustees do appointments. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay,
you, Sarah.
Public Arts Committee application, Internet.
Mayor, Board of Trustees, Antoinette, the town clerk. So I did receive an application for the Public Arts Committee. The committee is allowed to have up to 11 members, and currently there are 10 members sitting on the committee. So they can fill 1 additional seat. Beth Naham is the one that did apply for the position, and she is eligible to sit on the PAC. She owns the gathering space, the yellow house next to Sharky's, and she does live in the boundaries also of the Metro District. So she is eligible. She's very passionate about the arts. Every year the mural festival does have a mural that's in the front of her building, and she loves that, and she loves participating in that event. So the board can choose to appoint the 11th member to the PAC, or you could wait until the election, which is not till November of 2026. Yeah,
Yeah.
the chair of the Public Arts Committee, Callie McDermott, and Sarah Wick, who is a staff member that helps with that committee, are both excited and would love to have Beth sit on this committee. Additional members is just helpful for all the events that they do.
So Steve supports her also?
It's Callie. Callie's the chair
Okay.
now, and Callie does support her appointment.
Good.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested, all you need to do is make a motion to appoint her, if that's what you so desire to do.
I make a motion to appoint Beth Nahom to the Arts Committee. Public Arts
Second.
Committee.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, welcome, Beth. All right, we are now on Board of County Commissioner future discussion items.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Michael Brack, Fraser Town Manager. This is just, I think where the board is about due for, if you would like an update from the Board of County Commissioners. Especially since Commissioner Ed Ragnar has taken his seat on the BOCC. So I just wanted to open it up to see if there was any topics of discussion that we could invite them to discuss.
Parkway,
Parkway?
open lands. Trails.
Really, come on, what else you got?
Water.
Which trails? LORT or?
The funds. That fund is.
Mhm. I would suggest an item with the town considering home rule. I think I can ask Ed Moyer to see if they can help determine how much of the lodging tax is actually coming within the town of Fraser. The last few years, would that be helpful?
I was gonna say those funds as well, how much come back to Fraser
Right,
in general.
last 3 years.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because we contribute a lot and it goes to general marketing for the county and
So are you two considering home rule or? Like, no,
Yeah,
is there
I
a
mean-
meeting on it?
I mean, we've discussed it a lot. in the
We will
past,
have a
but
focus on the retreat about home rule.
Oh, okay.
with the presentation. So
Yeah. A decision hasn't been made, but
Katie, you may have, we've discussed it before with the board. I think you may have not been at the meeting where that was discussed.
Okay,
But we've had direction to kind of look into it more.
Okay.
And so we've had.
There's curiosity, I
maybe it
think.
was, you were absent too then.
Oh,
No. I remember.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're looking into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
we've
curiosity.
met.
Yeah.
we've
okay.
Yeah.
it's not a,
Like,
yeah,
so
not a
we
done
should-
deal.
Moving down
Yeah,
the
it's
road.
just something we were asked to look more into.
Okay.
And
That would
discuss.
be useful
at the
information
retreat.
then.
Do we need to ask them about the elections? Us, and there's some cloudiness on that now.
Brian maybe forwarded that email. I don't know if you included the board on that email.
I did not.
That could be helpful. Do you want to forward that to the board?
Yeah, I'll forward an email to the
Okay.
board about the elections.
Okay.
Our mayor
Not
here has had
something
some
to
good
be
conversation with the county and I've had some conversations with Ed Moyer and they have a plan. So Brian will shoot you that
Okay.
update there.
Yeah, very interesting.
And funds received. Okay, anything else? Probably a good amount.
Maybe,
But-
maybe, you know, public lands update or, you know,
Childcare funding, cost splits in general.
There you go. Good for you.
and of course the EMS building.
Yeah.
The EMS.
I
building.
talked to Ed about that.
Yeah.
Monday. Just brief.
Yeah. I've brought it up.
Maybe,
I
maybe, trash pickup on county roads. I hear County Road 8's in really bad shape. Some folks that live out there were telling me about that. And it's hard, because I know staffing is short. 40 is bad, but,
Is the Hot Sulphur Hotel empty? We used to get those guys out there.
yeah.
Yeah, they did away with that.
We have vacancies.
Chief, you guys have done away with the jail trash pickup program for a while now, right? Really due to
Too much
staffing
supervision.
issues.
Yes, and plus they don't have in jail that they used to. So.
I was joking that.
What about the high school
That's a good thing.
there?
Community
We
service.
have a more lenient judge.
There are some other entities that do trash pickup. But it's something we can always better organize, especially with the
Well, it's,
oversight of a
Get the high
cable
school
system.
work.
well, they used
They
to
need
be
community service.
more, sponsorship.
Yeah.
You know, on roads.
They-
And it seems like that's really fallen through. Maybe people just don't want to do it, or I don't know who was,
Mal scoop.
pushing that, if it was CDOT or the county. You know, this section of road is sponsored by,
Really just a highway through CDOT, isn't it?
yeah, I don't know.
'Cause
It's-
you've got
I
to
can
call
see
them
CDOT.
to get a section.
Brian, with the public lands, you're referring to operational or finance impacts due to federal budget cuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell them pick three.
Now you can. Yeah, right. You gotta narrow
That's
it
like
down.
3 hours there.
Hey, Ed, come to our meeting, answer all this question.
Yeah, 3 of them in 3 minutes.
I'd add maybe.
Thank you.
Go.
Okay. Updates. Start with Paul.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, Paul Johnson, Public Works Manager. Share my screen. So I have 10 minutes. But we have, currently, the town has potentially 15 projects coming this year. So I'm not sure I'll be able to get through all of them, but we'll start with Clayton Court. All of the deep wet utilities are installed and completed. The asphalt concrete restoration for phase 1 will be completed by June 20th. So they will fix the hole in Dock Suzie at Fraser Avenue, and then they'll fix Highway 40 where they brought the water line in next to the J&L building. Currently, the streetscape design is at 90% design, and it's on pause for right-of-way acquisition. So working with Kent and the property owners and title companies and our surveyor to get those square footages to approach the property owners with right-of-way acquisition in lieu of streetscape costs that would be their responsibility or purchase of that property. One situation we're running into as we're dealing with Strom and out west developers on that project and on their next project is a utility location and conflicts within the right of way. So if you look at, if you can see the picture up there, there's a lot of utilities in this road. We have the pump back line from the wastewater treatment plant that runs all the way up near to Grand Park Drive. In that vicinity, we have the new water line. We have an existing gas line. We have a raw water line. We have the 24-inch sanitary sewer trunk line. And we need to run power through that area. So a question I have for the board is, I know we had approached and looked at doing snow melt for the sidewalks. We're running into trouble with fitting the gas line with the needed separations and Excel's desire to not be in the middle of the road. So if I put snow melt under the sidewalk, they can't put a gas line under the sidewalk. They won't put a gas line under the sidewalk. So if we don't do snow melt, we have a solution where we can put Excel in the eastern sidewalk along with Mountain Parks and give them the 5-foot separation that we can grant them and make that work. One of the original ideas for the sidewalk before we reapproached on snow melt was to do a tinted concrete, so a darker concrete to absorb more heat to do some runoff. We have gotten some communications from out west that they are open to maybe putting radiant heaters on the outside of the buildings directed at those sidewalks to melt those sidewalks. So, and they are kind of okay with going that route to get these utilities in there. So just wanted to get that before the board for the board to discuss what they wanted to do with snow melt in there. It's unfortunately with all of the utilities in there, it's becoming very difficult to get that with some of the requirements of utilities not in my control. So some of their requirements make that difficult. So I just wanted everybody to kind of see this location here and the conflicts with Comcast and everybody else under there. It's becoming a very complicated system, especially when we have water lines at 9 feet deep, sewer at 7, pump back within 2 feet of that. So it got very difficult in there. So I'm looking for direction from the board on how we want to go with the snow melt. Once I have a direction from the board, I can get the design team to finish up those 90% plans and we can get it out to bid to get the rest of the streetscape put in.
And I've been on a few of these calls with them, just listening, barely comprehending what's going on, but honestly, like there's so much that's going to be going under this road and under these sidewalks that I don't think it's a smart use of our taxpayer dollars to put in those heated sidewalks. I know that we got a grant for this, but the grant isn't going to pay for all of it. So we might as well save some of our money and put in regular sidewalks, and then like Paul said, they're open to doing these like heat things from above to kind of heat the sidewalks, and that sounds kind of nice. I don't know. And it'll be cheaper when the inevitable happens and they have to dig up a sidewalk and then fix it again. At least we don't have heated pipes
Yeah.
down there. So
Yeah.
So I would say the grant stated that we would explore snow melt. It's not a requirement to put in snow melt. We've already probably spent our grant match in pursuing geothermal in the area. That while feasible, there's not room for that either. We don't have room to run anything in there once we started laying out all the existing utilities in Clayton Court.
Yeah.
Well, and as part of the grant, we committed to exploring renewable kind of energy efficient resources. A lot of communities are moving away from allowing heated sidewalks because they are such an energy suck just to be heating a cold environment. So I don't think the grant will argue with us not putting them in based on not being able to move forward with geothermal, and there's not really another viable option.
Right.
So I agree with everything that's been said. In my head, kind of in jest is saying right next to our baler, we should put in a snow melt machine.
So based on the geothermal study, our best resource would be the wastewater treatment plant and using the return flows into the river to actually lower those temperatures. But then there's the cost of running a pipe from the plant all the way to St. Louis Landing and then back through towards.
No, I just meant removal of the snow as we
Oh.
do. We haul it and then putting it into the, we've talked for decades about a snow melt machine or something in feasibility and so.
So I can see a snow melt machine, but then what do I do with that runoff as it freezes immediately downstream of our snow melt machine? Unless we're gonna vaporize it, which the cost for that would probably be astronomical.
Or you don't want to vaporize.
So
We need a small natural volcano somewhere. in
That's
Fraser.
somebody's water. You want it in the stream.
right.
Fraser River didn't even freeze all the way to the shore. Fraser River didn't even freeze all the way.
We're just doing one side heated. Like the more shaded side.
I don't think there's space. I
No.
think they have to go under the sidewalk.
So currently, if we went on the western side, that's where the pump back line actually resides underneath that sidewalk. We actually just found the Mylars and found clean set of plans of the as-built. And the pump back line is actually on an easement on private property. It's not actually within the right of way completely because of the angle of that manhole and the way it's set. So out west is already having to redesign their Centrum plans for moving a patio over there for something that we can work around to actually access. So it's proving difficult.
So if the board decides to go ahead and remove the heated sidewalks, it will allow us to hopefully have a more expedited plan for getting the project actually underway. With some assumptions that we'll talk about here in the next private session as far as acquiring that right of way and what that strategy will look like. But removing this does remove the complexity so they can go and fix these plans, get to 100% and have it ready to go to bid. And then you're obviously going to be acknowledging some cost savings there.
And this will keep the construction that's going on schedule.
We still have to acquire the right of way, which is the other component to this, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Next, just want to touch base real quick on the bike park. We're awaiting the final budget numbers and the 100% plans just to make sure that we have enough funding there, but they're at 90% plans now, just finalizing those plans and then getting the appropriate floodplain permit from the town, Army Corps permit, all those permits lined up. So working through that. Next is the sidewalk project, the Eisenhower Norgren sidewalks. The contract has been awarded. First public notice has been made to every property owner. They're actually doing a pre-construction meeting tomorrow with the contractor and our team. And then the work is scheduled to begin the 3rd week of June. So that would be the sidewalk along Eisenhower from Leonard to Norgren, and then along Norgren from Mill to the school. It would complete the sidewalk in front of Fraser Beer Co. That's missing. It'll fix the curb and gutter piece there in front of Camber. And then if you go to the rec center as you're driving in that parking lot on the left, right across from the Shell station, that curb is almost non-existent. So we're replacing that. So that's where that project stands. You guys had an update on the Public Works facility earlier today. So that's moving forward. Town hall improvements. So that's the ADA ramp in the front and the new gabled end over the front door to stop snow shed in that area. Contractors have been awarded for that. Work is to begin end of this month or early June. Parking in front of the town hall will not be available for the duration of that project. So we're working on parking will take place in the gravel by the tennis courts along Leonard, and then some of our streets crew will be parking over where you saw the dump trucks earlier at the workshop, getting those moved out of the way. They have been on site to give us a change order for addition of exterior doors on the bathrooms and an ADA ramp in the back so that during events in the park, we could have the bathrooms open, but have town hall and everything else locked out from the inside. So waiting on that. Current plan is to use the existing door in the men's room, and then in the ladies' room, take out one of the sinks and put it over there since it's not a brick wall over there. It's a standard frame wall. So that's the current plan there. The church renovation, that is currently out for bid, and bids are due in on the 30th, so Friday next week. We have DAO and his team on a retainer to help through the construction admin of that and to be able to answer any questions moving forward on that. We had 4 firms show up at the pre-bid meeting to take a look at it. I have one more firm that wants to get into the crawl space to kind of look at the plumbing situation to redo that bathroom. We have the Quail water line loop, which will connect the water lines over on Quail and Wapiti and allow Lucas and his team to isolate and not have to cut off that entire Ptarmigan subdivision for a small break. They can isolate and keep water services there. That project has been awarded. There'll be some exploratory work done this summer in Fox Lane because that location of the water line is unknown. It appears to maybe cross the sewer line. So we're just going to do some exploratory work there. The work will take place later this fall when the water table is at its lowest. So they'll get that work done in the fall. Does not affect the property we talked about earlier. It's coming down from the existing well house there and then straight down towards the Fraser River. And we have the water lines installed in the back of those properties. So it'll stay within town property. We have a project for the South Wapiti culverts. So as you leave Safeway and you enter South Wapiti and cross the Fraser River, those 3 pipes there for the river are failing, and CDOT has flagged them for repair. So we're going to do a repair in there. We have those out to bid, and those are due 2nd week of June.
What do we expect the cost of that to be?
Probably 100,000 or more.
Fraction.
So I'm not going to, I'm repairing them in case we want to relocate South Wapiti or change any of that. I'm doing what I need to do to get 10 years out of it and not a permanent 50 to 100-year replacement at this time.
Okay.
We have Byers and Eisenhower sewer lining, so it'll go down the alley of Byers and Eisenhower, similar to what we did last year between Mill and Byers, where we chemical grouted all the sanitary sewer. We've seen great results. There's only one warranty item in there. So it's working really well. We're not having any, we've reduced the INI over there significantly. So the plan is if this works well again this year, we will finish Old Town next year. Street striping, with contractor will be addressing the intersection there with Safeway on the 804 Highway 40 side, potentially the 72 side, and then all the existing striping in town gets redone every year just because it gets plowed off and worn off every winter. So I know there's been some emails about that. The Lions Ponds bathroom, I know everybody is concerned there. Repair work was going to be covered under warranty by Green Flush. And Green Flush is currently soliciting bids for the repair. I think we've had 3 bids into them. I'm hoping, my hope is that they pick the same guy who fixed the last time we had a leak in there. But they admitted that they did not understand, I think, our temperatures. And so the radiant heaters in the roof did not heat the concrete floor enough to keep it from freezing. Staff has ideas on what we can do in there once the warranty work is done, but I don't want to go that route until they fixed all the plumbing in the walls. There's a bus stop relocation we're going to be doing this summer in coordination with the lift and in conversations with Grand Park, removing it from OVR to Elk Ranch Road to better get people from standing in Old Victory. We've met with the lift out there. They're okay. Just need to coordinate that work getting done this summer. And then lastly, we have the stormwater project that is moving into a second year. We'd got the Northern Water Windy Gap Fund to fund that whole project. They made it a whole lot farther than I anticipated, and there's still money left. So in talking with the Ground Foundation, we can keep going until we've expended the funds. So the dashboard is up and running, but it's still being refined by our GIS analyst, Jeff Elliott, our biologist, and the intern. Unfortunately, our intern has taken a full-time position, and so will only be available for about 2.5 hours a week or per pay period, but he's still willing to work. So we're going to keep pushing forward with the money we have with our
Adam
partners.
Or somebody else.
Adam Roth, yeah. And then in talking with the team, I think it was last week, we'll be installing 2 more additional water quality monitors in the Fraser River, Elk Creek, and St. Louis Creek to just monitor that water quality, temperature, all of the things there. And the plan is to work with Tiffany and her company to continue to record that for the next 5 years. So we have a good baseline going forward. I don't want to spend the kind of money we're talking about on these monitors and run it for 8 months. I'd rather get a nice long exposure of 5 years to see what's happening out there. And that's all of town projects.
So
Any
do you need
questions?
to know from us right now whether we're ready to let go of the in-floor heating for the?
I don't need it
sidewalks?
right now, but I can't release Merrick to push on until we know what we're going to do, because there's an additional
I would
cost.
recommend
So let's
direction.
discuss that. I think we can let it go, and I would imagine that in their requirements for the business owners that they are obligated to keep their sidewalks and everything clean.
It's
Maybe
town
by then
code already.
there'll be some other kind of even a melt system that could easily be mounted and recirculated that would.
I do think that the radiate heat will help. It's not going to be perfect, as we saw with the bathrooms.
Yeah.
If it's -36 and -44 again, the snow melt probably wouldn't even have handled that. But the radiant heat, if they're willing to put them in, will help in those locations. And
It might help with people walking down there.
That's true.
they have some other great ideas for that street. If they can get control of the whole thing, I think it'll be an
Yeah.
amazing walkable
We need to-
block.
So I'd make a motion.
I just need a recommendation. I don't,
Okay.
yeah.
Thumbs up, if that's
Yep.
okay. You guys are
Yep.
supportive.
It works.
All
Thank you.
Thumbs
Any-
up all around with our
Any
work.
questions on any of the other projects?
I think so. So Norgren is on the east side or
Norgren is
north-
east, Eisenhower is the north side.
North side, yeah, which makes sense. Okay,
Is that why there's fencing up over there? Is that
Oh.
someone else? Carl's old house, if you notice, he has like.
They're
wood
building
fencing up there.
something.
oh, they're building an
They're
addition.
building an addition.
Oh,
Yeah, they're adding on.
oh, that's cool.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Any other updates?
Got a few. I was asked to pass along the invitation from Mike Johnson, who's the appointment to the Fraser River Valley Housing Partnership regarding a strategic alignment discussion that is being facilitated at the next housing partnership meeting on June 29th, which is next Thursday from 1 to 5 p.m.
May 29th.
June 29th. I'm
Okay, so
sorry.
It's not next.
No.
week.
May 29th. Wow. Sorry, my husband in June a lot for various things. May 29th, next Thursday, from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Headwater Center. It's a strategic alignment discussion and also a discussion about what is kind of the strategies the partnership really wants to focus on with the need to hire another executive director. Currently, the town of Winter Park has offered AJ, the assistant town manager for Winter Park, has been doing a phenomenal job, but it has been consuming a lot of her time, and it is not sustainable for her to keep doing that.
Yeah.
So they will be looking to take another executive director on since Rob Clemens left that position. And they just wanted me to pass that along, that invitation, if anybody's interested. Obviously, the focus is on housing and the forming of the partnership and its intent, and how an executive director could really help, pursue these different initiatives that are being worked on. So I was
Cool.
asked to pass it along.
I think it would be really important to have somebody from the Fraser board there. I have a meeting at 2:30, so I could go for the first hour and 15 minutes, but I can't stay for the whole thing. It's a Thursday. I think?
Thursday next week
Thursday.
from 1 to 5 at the Headwater Center.
I should be
I
able
could
to go.
probably do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for locking that down. And we have confirmed that the board retreat will be on June 17th and 18th.
16th and 17th.
16th and 17th. I should never. There we go. There's a calendar. 16th and 17th. One discussion that Brian and I have been talking about is if July 2nd works for everyone's schedule, we could look to cancel the board meeting on June 18th. So that
I think that'd be a great idea.
That's a
does
good.
July 2nd.
That's your birthday.
That's my
isn't it?
birthday.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Does July 2nd work for everyone's schedules for the board meeting? It's as regularly scheduled. We just want to check with the 4th of July weekend being there.
Works for me. And I will not be attending the next board meeting. I'll be out of town.
Sure.
But you know,
That should be okay.
Sounds like we have quorum for July 2nd.
All right.
All right,
Which
then
one?
we'll cancel June 18th.
okay.
All right. Thank you. And
What's the other?
so, and just so that you know, we have the board retreat, obviously in June. See emails the following week from our retreat. And then we'll be looking to, we're having discussions about when to schedule a joint meeting with the town of Winter Park, maybe inviting Granby to some of these discussion items in the county. So hopefully that's going to occur sometime in late July or August for a joint meeting between two towns, really before we formally kick off budget season. Look at some things to work together on, which includes a wayfinding project that myself and the mayor attended earlier today with the town of Winter Park. We got a presentation from Merge, which is the contractor who has done a lot of wayfinding projects in various communities, and presented us with some of their the project focus and the phases that they kind of see that make sense, along with some design options that would work really well. The goal is to have good signage and understanding for those visiting the valley as far as to and from downtown and other important key locations from Highway 40 to the trail system and vice versa. Clearly establishing when you're in the town of Fraser, when you're in the town of Winter Park, how many miles Fraser downtown is from the town of Winter Park and how many miles to downtown Winter Park it is from the town of Fraser. And just having good wayfinding signage that makes it easy to understand where public parking is, public restrooms, where the trailhead and different access points and key critical locations are that that users would be really interested in finding. So we've been getting presentations on that. As you may recall from the budget that is in place for this year, the board approved $15,000 to go towards this design work for this wayfinding project. And we should hopefully get some estimates soon for what the cost of this wayfinding would actually cost the towns. And then we can have a joint meeting and discussion as far as where do we want to look to, what phases do we want to consider implementing between the two towns so that we are both bringing in the same signage at the same time. It also includes the interpretive signage, which is also like the educational signage that you see like along the Fraser River
Wonderful.
Trail.
Yeah,
That's in desperate need of repair and replacement. And
Great.
along with just some of the gateway monument kind of areas to the towns.
Good.
So I think it's been really constructive. I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, this is kind of part of that sustainable communities thing that Katie started on, and then I jumped on the board for. And so this is the governance committee that's kind of doing this wayfinding project. I think the coolest thing about Merge is they have this ability to be cohesive so that all the signage looks the same, but then each municipality has their logo on their particular sign. So you know when you're in Fraser, you know when you're in Winter Park, and the ski resort is also on board with this. So
Cool.
it'll be contiguous signage through this whole portion of the valley. If later, if Granby wanted to jump on board, they could just basically order the same style of signs and put their logo on their stuff. So it has this ability to kind of scale up if they want to.
Cool.
And hopefully even Tabernash, maybe we can get some county buy-in.
Right.
That's exciting.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work around the country, but I
Yeah,
think
they're
one of their
huge.
biggest parts is in Arkansas, because like the Fayetteville area is a very big, in Bentonville, very big mountain bike area, and there's probably 4 or 5 different towns that are relatively close together, and they all have this same style of signage. It's not going to look like what it looks like here, but they have their own style, and then they have their own logos on each of the signs. So I think it's really cool. It's
Great.
going to help tourists a lot and locals alike.
Awesome.
Sarah, would you like to provide an overview of something that was just awarded to the town in addition to what we're looking at for June 4th?
Yeah, so we're hoping to have a more formal update from Matt on St. Louis Landing on June 4th. But in the meantime, I will share that we did get a commitment through a grant agreement from the Fraser Valley Housing Partnership for $4.75 million towards St. Louis Landing.
That's awesome.
So that's a huge chunk and helping to round out that capital stack. You will have the grant agreement for your signature at the June 4th meeting. It
Mhm.
has been signed by the partnership. A couple of things that they asked for with that was having a first right of refusal if we were to ever sell the property. And they wanted an affordability covenant on the 2 buildings that they're helping to fund C and E of 120% AMI for all units, for all rental units. But that full agreement will be in your next board packet, and we'll talk about that next week or 2 weeks from now. Also very exciting, and I just closed this one off.
Hey, Sarah, I've got a quick question on
Yeah.
that. Are you still on this one?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. I was curious when it talks about the daycare. Let's see, I'm reading Michael's update. Apartments rent. And entirely subsidizing an 8,500 square foot lease for child care services, which sounds wonderful, but what does that mean? Does that mean that they won't be paying rent? Which is
So another item that may come before you
okay.
June 4th. We do have a letter of intent that's been provided to grandkids that would be I'll now call it in the spirit of a $0 lease. One of the items that we've been looking at with the other municipalities in the county is just how to support and make sustainable early childhood education here in the county.
Yeah.
Because they're all just drowning. And as we've continued to have these conversations with them, right now they're just in the red and not meeting their basic operating expenses. So to take on a new lease just really isn't feasible. So we would like to be able to commit to providing $1,000 annual lease to help in that way in terms of supporting their daily operations.
Okay. So just a flat lease, which makes sense because I know it's really expensive.
Yes.
And staffing has started to get decent wages, but still not really living wages for up here, so.
Yeah, and Grand Beginnings, which is our early childhood council for
Mhm.
Grand and Jackson County, they have recently received They've recently received a grant from make sure I get this name right, the Temple Hoyne Buell Foundation, to do a study for a Grand County Early Childhood Strategic Investment Plan, bringing together the county, municipalities, local employers, and other community stakeholders to work on a strategic plan to address the pain points in our local early childhood system. So we're hoping that with this funding and this study that by late summer, they'll have some deliverables and approach the mayors, managers, county commissioners groups with some potential strategies that they recommend for meeting those financial needs. Again, in advance of budget season.
But so with this, and this will lock us into that,
If we were to sign that lease, it would.
$4,700,000.
And they do need, for purposes of being able to go after grant funding, the minimum lease they need is 25 years.
Okay.
So it would be a long-term commitment. Yeah. The other exciting news on our capital stack for St. Louis Landing, which again, we can talk more about next week, but just to give you a heads up, is we have been invited to go through underwriting for a $12.9 million investment from the Affordable Housing Financing Fund. This investment would allow us to bring back Building D along with Building C and E, totaling 129 units and reaching greater affordability at an average of 90% AMI across the entire 3-building development. So it basically would replace, I don't know if replace is the right word, but we'd be looking at the AMIs that we were looking at with LIHTC funding for that 3rd building. So we
30 to 80%.
correct. Yeah, so it'll allow for some of those lower AMIs, which I think is great news. But it would be working with MAD then to go through an addendum to our development agreement to bring back on that 3rd building, assuming this goes through. So this is Prop 123 equity funding that MAD applied for.
And just to be clear, it's a separate agreement from the development agreement. So we won't be rehashing the old development agreement. It'll be a new agreement for bring on Building D.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious.
Lots going on.
Yeah,
It's a few projects.
we got a lot going on.
Yes.
Awesome.
Any other updates from
Some
the internet?
Just a quick one. The baskets for the businesses will be available for pickup on Monday, June 2nd. And I did inquire about the tree program with Kathleen Brown. She let me know that they initially started the program when the beetle kill came through to help people replenish dead trees. She said during COVID, or they were getting a lot of the trees down in Denver from the nurseries, and during COVID, a lot of those nurseries did close. She said the trees at this point cost about 4 times the amount of what they were paying several years ago. And the program became difficult to administer. People coming from all over the county thinking they could get free trees from the town of Fraser. So at this point, she does not anticipate continuing with the free tree program anymore. Yep.
Fraser got a lot more trees than it did 40 years ago. Our aspen forests are almost a problem for homeowners and neighbors. I think we're good on trees for now. But it was a nice program altogether. And you got your cottonwoods and your
Okay, any updates from the rest of the board?
Talk about state of the river.
What's it?
State of the river.
I apologize. We do have one more update from Sarah Wick. She did want us to share the new video that she's just created. So, Wendy is gonna play it for you guys. We're gonna share this.
On AV system.
Share. Can you share? it so people can see it?
Oh, I think so.
Hit that play button again.
Oh, well, we can send it out. I'll send it out the weekly update.
Oh, Sarah, we can't get it to pull up. All right, folks. Just bump a little bit.
What if you don't share? You're gonna see it in the room.
Well, she has embarked on a Fraser Find Your Flow advertising campaign kind of geared towards mountain biking and gravel biking. And
Yeah, what we saw on the board packet was very good, Sarah.
Yeah, that's
There's some
fully,
good stuff, and I appreciated your plug about, and really, don't be riding on the trails when they're wet and the problems that. So,
I apologize. Not
short
working.
and sweet, but you got that in.
It is in the entryway too. You can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was fully funded by the tourism board. Is that correct, Sarah?
sure,
Yeah.
I don't actually.
They're nearly entirely funded by the tourism board for this new marketing initiative here.
That's great.
So it's great.
Well, good job. Thanks, Sarah.
There you go, getting some money back. Okay. Any other updates from the board or anybody else?
We had the state of the river this past week. In brief, I would say the real news is that in April 1st, we were at 90% of snowpack, and May 1st, we were at 55%.
Wow.
So
Here in Grand
it's
County?
looking to be an okay forecast is quite dramatically changing. And you know,
I mean, Lake Granby looks like it's down 20 feet. It's
I went out to
so-
Glenwood this week in the Colorado River. They're meeting the Shoshone Call with the Eagle River right now, so they're pumping the Colorado River over to the other side, but it looks like September, October right now. It's pretty ugly, to be honest. You know, that's the legalities of the plumbing right now, but the forecast is quite dire. I also went to the my first Colorado Basin Roundtable meeting, and that got more into the interstate issues. The rules that we're basically operating under right now expire in 26. And so next year's last year will function under these rules. And really the upper basin states are pushing for a supply side demand, where the bottom basin states are looking at a demand-based supply. And that doesn't work very well when you're in a shortage. The projections for this summer are now looking good.
And definitely an increased fire danger.
Yeah, those two basins originally were supposed to be 50-50. But it's been 70-30 for a long time in litigation and the courts, and with us getting 30%.
It was in the paper
California.
yesterday that the Central Arizona project said that we need to conserve more so they can continue to take. So they're really fighting the supply side approach to things, which, you know, I don't see any way that in time you can't deny the supply. Right. So
Right.
There'll be a turn eventually. It's unfortunate that we
Yeah.
have to take advantage of a good crisis.
It was sobering, but we're in a really sweet spot right here in Grand County.
Yeah.
We capture moisture.
All the drop maps. Once you get to the troublesome and crumbling, it starts to change dramatically.
Yeah.
Summit County and the Front Range Mountains are doing pretty well right now.
It was interesting.
Okay.
So next time night we get the big giant snowflakes, just say, we need this moisture, the state needs this moisture. Like it does.
Anything else? All right.
Do you have the cheat sheet?
Oh, yep.
He's got it.
Did we conclude this?
No, we open this.
All right, so I move to enter into an executive session for the purposes of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses E, regarding right-of-way strategy and property acquisition to include the town manager, Michael Brack, attorney Kent Whitmer, assistant town manager Sarah.
Cassandra.
Hands right.
Public Works Director Paul Johnson.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay.
Yes, Ned, it's my opinion that we do not have to record this.
So it was not written on the agenda. I think we could amend the executive session, but it was not for the purpose of, it was not including a conference with the town attorney for a purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. I think we wanted to amend the executive session to include that is something that we can do.
So amended.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. All in favor?
I.
Okay.
Correct. So now it will not be recorded.
Okay. Sounds good.